Come at the king, you best not miss.
You're not locked in this zone 32.
I've risen from the dead. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Zone 32 podcast. It's a three-man skeleton crew tonight. My name is Jake. His name is Drew. His name is Will. Grant's fucked off somewhere. He didn't get eaten by a bear like Max many years ago, but you know what?
We sent Grant out to distribute headphones to people across the United States of America so that they can, enjoy watching videos in public.
PSA: if you're really in public, if you're at a place where you're gonna eat somewhere and your plate just for you is $120. If you want to watch some videos, put on a set of fucking headphones, man. It's not hard. I got this little Bluetooth thing out here, costing me maybe $40. You can go and get some fucking skull candies from Target for $10 if you really want to. I'm just saying.
I would just like the record to show that all three of us are not out in public places. We're sitting in various rooms in our house, and all three of us have headphones on.
Right. So really actually, it's a hard and fast rule on this podcast that you are not allowed to be a guest or a panelist unless you have some sort of a headset, and preferably one that's wired. But as long as you have a reliable headset,
and you can't be named Tom.
Yes, this is the rule, the Tom rule. So, I don't even know
one of the rules.
Yeah, which would be worse? Which would be worse, to be in public listening to your phone on speaker, or playing music or videos out of it in a public setting, or going on a podcast and not having any sort of a headset and walking around the room while you're supposed to be a guest on the show?
Oh, now not just walking around the room, doing fucking Russell Wilson high knees. That's the night where we learned Tom was actually a secret covert fucking Broncos fan because he loves midget quarterbacks. That's what we learned that night. Yep. You don't do high knees otherwise.
It's true.
Unless you're Brandon Perna, but still. Anyway, not too many things have happened, but a couple things have happened within the NFL and Ravens community. The Ravens reached a one-year deal with the wide receiver, Laquon Treadwell. Signed, I don't recall the financials, but he's in there. Likely a camp body for mandatory minicamp, maybe training camp, and see if he makes it. Maybe he's a threat for Final 53. Other than that, it's a wait-and-see kind of thing. Likely competition for the end of the roster guys who will likely not make the team, but maybe they'll make the team. So, Drew, big move or no move?
Assume we're talking about future wide receiver one, Laquon Treadwell. For some reason,
former first-round pick.
Yeah,
former first-round pick.
Look. All I'm saying is that if you go Google Laquon Treadwell draft profile and you look at Lance Zierlein from NFL Network's analysis of him coming out of college, his pro comp is DeAndre Hopkins. So did EDC just get a secret DeAndre Hopkins? Maybe. I don't know. At worst, he's a camp body, and at best, he's like a wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5. So I really see no downside to it. We're lacking size. We're lacking in that department.
Yeah. Oh, no.
He's been freezing on and off. I don't know what's going on with this guy.
Look, this is karma for Will exposing that nice young woman at the steakhouse. So I feel like
I called her a lovely young lady, and she really was. Honestly, she was nice.
You called her very, very horrible names according to the internet. So.
You called her a bunt with a C.
No, that word wasn't used. There was other.
No, I never said that.
Other pejoratives.
Pejoratives.
I honestly haven't called her a goddamn name. I haven't said anything.
Look, man. If I read the quote tweets, it's not what they tell me. So
yeah, really.
Look, the internet tells me that Laquon Treadwell is the next DeAndre Hopkins, and the internet tells me that you said horrific things about that young woman. So
and I have to pasty and unseasoned.
Yeah, and the internet tells me bullying isn't cool. Bullying is lame, just like old Stan Marsh before he went jacking it in San Diego.
Yeah, so in all honesty, if we have, I just had to blow through that because I don't think anybody else understood that reference there.
Nope,
it's
not at all.
No, I did. I got it.
Damn right, because Drew is a cultured man who watches South.
Yeah, we're men of great intelligence and culture. But I think Treadwell is, it's another one of those things that our fans freak out about because we're so used to, if we signed Laquon Treadwell at this time last year, he would have been wide receiver 3 on the depth chart, and now he's maybe not going to make the roster, maybe going to make the roster, but everybody's treating it like it's supposed to be this big signing, and it's just not.
Yeah. So I've been a Laquon Treadwell like truther since he was he went to Ole Miss, right?
Yes, he did. That
Was it
was
Ole
yeah.
Miss or Missouri? Yeah, it was a.
No,
it was
Ole
Ole
Miss. He went to Ole Miss, and I really liked him coming out. And then I thought it was like every year I'm like, this is the year he's gonna break out because he was one of those guys. It was just like a highlight reel in college. He was awesome,
Yeah.
contested catch. He was a first round pick for a reason. So I've always thought, okay, I mean, obviously he has upside. He has a high ceiling, but we've also seen he has a super low floor, and he's played closer to the floor than anywhere close to the ceiling the whole time. Now us signing him when we've already rebuilt the wide receiver room, and he's in a fight for the sixth spot in the wide receiver room, maybe the fifth spot. I don't know, probably not though. Like maybe this is where it comes into play that Duvernay is expendable because of what you said before, Drew, with the change in kickoff rules, and if Treadwell turns out to be a more capable receiver, because they're about the same size, I believe. So
Treadwell's a little bigger. I thought Treadwell was closer to like 6 feet. Maybe I'm wrong.
I mean,
but
Duvernay
Yeah, I
is
thought he
6
was
feet, I
6'1",
think.
right?
I think Duvernay is
think
6 feet.
Duvernay's
I thought Duvernay's
5'11",
5'10".
5'10".
No, I think
Something
he's
like that?
I think he's 5'11", 6 foot, but it doesn't matter. There's really no difference at
I thought
that
he
point.
was.
They're
Remember
similar.
coming out, he
there's-
was comped to Golden Tate because they're pretty similar stature. They're a little stocky, thick, but short. If I remember right, but I could be wrong.
I think they profile similarly physically, but I think that Treadwell, has obviously a higher pedigree in terms of his college career and being a first round pick and everything else. But I don't think he has necessarily produced at the NFL level in a more significant way than Duvernay has. So maybe he's competing for the fifth spot, the sixth spot.
Well,
maybe he doesn't make the roster. I don't know.
Treadwell is also going to be making, I assume it was a minimum contract, hasn't been reported yet, but, and Duvernay is making $4 million. So if you're talking about, Ravens love that 80-20 principle.
Yep.
And you're going to be able to get 80% of the production at 20% of the cost, like Treadwell's the guy. So.
Right. Yeah. And,
same reason I think Tylan Wallace made. I think Tylan Wallace could be your wide receiver 6 special teams guy, and he costs a hell of a lot less than Duvernay or Prochet. So, he kind of gets the edge there.
I just really like the fact that we have some, I don't want to use the word exciting in the wrong context here, but like when you're talking about your fifth and sixth receivers, we have Duvernay, we have Treadwell, we have Demas, we have Wallace, right? We have a bunch of guys who've been here and who a lot of people have hoped would break out. Prochet's even in that group. He hasn't been cut or anything. So I mean, like shit, if he shows out and maybe
don't do it.
Contribute. I'm just saying, like,
look. I know the man's had a rough.
Yeah, he could steal a roster spot. He could, just knowing that they've given him so many chances already. It wouldn't be the most shocking thing in the world if somehow James Prochet stole one of those roster spots.
Right. I'm gonna stop you there. The man's had a rough June, so I'm not gonna pile on.
No, me neither. I'm actually. This is the first time I've ever been like even remotely like positive about James Prochet. I'm throwing a bone out there for him that if James Prochet,
we have one sober podcast in the history, and then all of a sudden you drink again on the podcast and you're coming out with wild takes. We can't be doing that.
James Prochet right now to me is like wide receiver 9 on the depth chart. So like anyone from that 5 to 9, 10. I think we maybe have 11 wide receivers total or 12, but he's probably in the 9, 10 range right now. So like I think anybody from wide receiver 5 through 10 right now has some, reasonable shot at grabbing hold of one of those roster spots, but some guys have better shots than others. Treadwell, I don't even know how much of a shot he has to make the team, but like I said, I think it's like you could do way worse for a camp body and a guy competing for a back of the roster spot than Laquon Treadwell, just because of the fact that he does have upside.
Yeah, the only guy that's on the market right now that's going to come in and guaranteed make a roster spot would be DeAndre Hopkins. Anybody else is in that same boat. It's you sign him to a nothing contract and you see what you got. I guess Demarcus Robinson would probably make the roster too if we signed him.
Yeah, and that's like one of those kind of annoying arguments that are like not even arguments, but like I've seen people tweet it like, why are we signing this guy when we could be signing Demarcus Robinson? You know why? Because Demarcus Robinson is a bigger contributor than what that spot would be right now at this point in time. So it's like he'd probably cost more. It's just that I don't know that there's and
they're the
value
same
there.
people. They're the same people that were bitching about Demarcus Robinson last year.
Yep.
So, you know, again, like to most Ravens fans, like pick a fucking slant.
Right.
It's not
Well,
a
yeah.
it's not a just be sad online all the time. It's have a reasonable take and stick with it.
Same people who crawled up my ass when I said when I was talking about how going after Slay was
Yeah.
a smarter move than going after someone like a Brandon Cooks at the time. And now they're crying about we don't have cornerback depth. Same exact people.
Yeah,
That's
I
kind of an
mean,
obvious one. What the how
I
the fuck
actually
would you want a
saw
wide receiver 2 over a top 5, top 10 corner in the league?
Right.
That's asinine thinking.
Yeah, and that was my whole point. Like getting a cornerback of that caliber, adding it to what we already have with that defense and with, pairing him up with Marlon Humphrey, you're not only helping the defense, you're helping the offense because the defense is going to be fucking locked down. The defense is going to score points. The defense is going to, bail out the offense when they're not clicking, which hopefully is not too often. But like adding a guy of that caliber is like, why the fuck wouldn't you do it? So,
well, and
and
it's the same thing as the people complaining about the lack of cornerback depth now. And it's like whoever they go get at corner right now would not be anything good. There's really nobody on the market that's worth having.
which
And
includes Marcus
so,
Peters. And
yeah,
and it's like anybody we would get right now, like Marcus Peters included, is someone who has fallen off from where they once were. You're kind of it's like almost like you're
it's a
you're taking
nostalgia
a
overpay.
yeah, you're taking a shot on it, but with the hope that maybe if Marcus Peters, we did re-sign him, for example, he could be more like,
Jimmy Smith.
2020 Marcus
Well,
Peters.
yeah, he'd play a Jimmy Smith role, and then maybe in that limited capacities at 2019, 2020 Marcus Peters.
Well, 2019 Marcus Peters was excellent. I mean, like
Yeah, it was all pro.
2020 Marcus Peters was not nearly as good, but was still good and still, he brought the main components of Marcus Peters to the table, which is he's good for a big play a few big plays every
He's a
season.
ball hawk with some edge.
Yeah, and right, and he brings attitude that no one else has on the team. So it's like just that presence and the intensity. Like so, those things are valuable. But when you're getting less of the big plays and it's almost 100% like last year about the attitude, you can replace that, and you should. So if we add him back, I don't think there's any expectation he's going to be wider or cornerback too. That just
Well,
like
and
that's not
that's
that's
again
not who he is anymore.
that's where our fans' minds are, though. Is that again they lost their minds over Leonard Floyd signing with the Bills, and like we said it on the podcast, I think Grant, me, and you all agreed that like we'd be fine with Leonard Floyd. He's not a you have to go get him kind of guy, but he's also not somebody that we would hate having had in Baltimore. But again, we don't really need him.
Right.
We don't really need. We would rather Ojabo and Owe work out. Like
Yeah,
I feel like that's the better route, and that you want that veteran guy. And whether it's Houston, Clowney, Yannick, I don't even doesn't even really matter, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like you need another body in there. Just like
Right.
you need another body at corner, but you don't need somebody to come in and be cornerback two at this point.
Right. So yeah, on that note with the pass rushers, so like yeah, we don't have to go out and sign the top. He is the most recently productive edge rusher available. That's what he
I
is.
forget
But like
who I was. Yeah, I forget who I was talking to about this, but he is 29, 27, something like that.
mhm.
He has 29 sacks over the last 3 years and hasn't missed a game. And so if you compare that to Clowney in Houston, he's got more sacks. He's the same age as Clowney, but has less NFL wear and tear on him because he came out 2 years after Clowney. He was old when he got drafted.
Mhm.
And has the most sacks and has the least wear and tear. So if did they ever announce his contract details?
I haven't seen it if they did.
Yeah, I haven't seen it either. So, but we're thinking like if he's like the 100% of the market right now, then maybe Clowney's 70% of that and Houston's 50% of that. And if that number puts you under, $2-3 million guaranteed, like I'd be happy with either Clowney or Houston at this point.
Right. And Yannick is a name I keep hearing more frequently now because I think the later it gets, unless there's like some rash of injuries on edge rushers, I think Yannick is going to fall into that same exact sort of like $6 million a year, $5 million a year probably is going to be where he's looking, and that continues to go down if it becomes like Yannick obviously he's going to play somewhere. So unless he's like some sort of emergency, plan for someone, he's going to have to lower his asking price, probably just build incentives in. And, again, like I'm not opposed to Yannick because it was not a great experiment when we did it, but it was a different system. You're not going to
and
see
it's
Yannick
that
They
going
asked
out
him to
and
do other
covering wide
things as
receivers
opposed to
and shit.
actually
Yeah,
rush.
right.
it's not that they asked him to do other things, it's that they expected him to come in and be a run stuffer, and he's just not that. And like
Right.
Mike McDonald doesn't seem to operate in that same manner, and Harbaugh has mostly left McDonald alone at this point and kind of let him operate how he wants. So
Yeah. Yannick he was like a decoy when he was here. Like,
he played 30% of snaps and he just ran fucking figure eights around the left tackle. Instead of going after the quarterback, he racked up the pressures and didn't do shit with them. And
right. I
it's
was going
like,
to say he had a lot of
yeah.
pressures and then we were getting sacks like off of that, but not from him.
Yeah, they were essentially meaningless pressures because he wasn't the guy converting on him because we were, like you said, we were using him as like a decoy, guy to pull, like blocking outside. It was fucking stupid. Why we gave up like a second round pick for that? It makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
But that was
Yeah.
EDC, young EDC kind of dealing from a point of weakness and desperation, and that's why he doesn't do that anymore. So
Right. Well, and
I feel like that was a learning experience too.
And that was like, he had so many hits in a row on those in-season trades especially on defensive players that like, I mean, they're not all going to hit. And, but I'm not opposed to running it back with Yannick at all.
No, as long as he doesn't have, like sour grapes and hated here, then I'm fine with it.
His negativity is probably more oriented towards the person who was responsible for the scheme than anything else. That would be my assumption.
We got to tread lightly here though, because you and I had a pro Wink argument with a certain dipshit that we mentioned earlier, who does calisthenics during recording. So I don't want to give him any ammo to use.
I'm not saying I hate Wink. I'm just saying the way that Yannick was deployed was contingent on the way his coach did it. And, that season, things went off the rails towards the end of the season because they were getting a little crazy with the way they were using certain types of players. And he was one of them. So,
yeah, definitely. I mean, it's the same thing as Wink dropping, fucking name that edge rusher into coverage. So
Calais Campbell.
Defensive tackles into coverage. Like, God, fucking every once in a while, I remember that
edge rushers. He valued corners.
It's not that he valued edge rushers, but he never valued who got the sacks for you or how you got them. It was just that you rushed four guys to the passer and got a sack. And so if those four guys were your two corners and two safeties, and you were dropping every one on the front seven back into coverage, then like he was cool with that. It was just they called it an exotic blitz scheme, and that is just underselling how fucking crazy some of the shit that he did to create pressure was.
Right. Well, and one of the things that the fact of the matter is edge rushers are sort of like the wide receivers of the defense in that they want to rack up sacks, just like wide receivers want to rack up catches or yards or touchdowns or whatever. So like if you're not feeding those guys and they're not getting their numbers, because a lot of those guys have incentives in their contracts that are contingent on hitting benchmarks on sacks, then they're going to be pissed off. And like, that's why you see people like Judon and like Zadarius Smith and like Yannick with a bad taste in their mouth. And, part of it is the money too, because like then if they don't hit those numbers when they're playing for a contract, then you don't pay them the way they think they should be paid. And they think it was like almost that they were sabotaged because of the way they were used. They didn't get their sacks. So,
and see, I would actually call them the running backs, because I think that most edge rushers are interchangeable in the right scheme. And that's really what it comes down to, is that you have a defensive coordinator who, puts the emphasis on the edge guys getting home. And when there's like a truly special edge guy, like like a Lawrence Taylor caliber guy, they stick out. And like a generational running back, there's generational edge rushers too. And so it's like you said, it's these guys want their numbers because their numbers getting paid. A running back wants to get there.
Yeah, you might be right too. It might be like closer to like the JK Dobbins situation,
Yeah, exactly. It's the same thing. And the rumors have run wild about that since we talked about it last week.
All right, add it to the list, Jake.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of edge rushers, obviously you saw a little thing today of the rumors that Chase Young and the commies are open to listening to offers for his services. So I'll ask y'all, hypothetically speaking, what's the most you'd be willing to give up to attain his services. And what? Yeah.
I would just like to go on the record and say that Will and I have been pro bringing Chase Young to Baltimore all offseason. So
I did an entire mock draft, and people were on my ass about it. And the whole, I think he was like the linchpin of my mock draft. It was all built around trading for Chase Young and somebody else, like maybe like Mike Evans or something like that. But
yeah, I'm honestly anything less than a first, and I'm in. Assuming that we get a contract on with him, because I think this is his last year.
Yeah.
I think this is his last year on
We
the
would have
It
to do
is.
a contract because I think he has a pretty big cap hit.
Well,
then
I think it's like 8 mil. I think it's like 8 mil.
Yeah.
So it would be like it's enough that we'd have to get a deal done, because then it would leave us with next to no money for like practice squad promotions and in-season signings and shit for injuries. So
right.
We could bring him in without getting an extension done, but we'd have to get one done just for like normal team building activities, basically, at some point before the season started. Honestly, like a second would be fine. And if you trade him a second and they're willing to eat salary, like the same thing as the Laquon deal. Like I'd
rather it was a third.
Yeah.
And like people right,
yeah,
people right now who are talking about, oh, he was the second overall pick and blah blah blah. That doesn't matter. If they're willing to trade him right now, they didn't pick up his option. He had an insane rookie year, and he's looked good when he's been fully healthy. He's always looked good. And like, if he's not putting up numbers, he's getting like triple teamed. He's that disruptive and that effective.
And I think willing and wanting to trade him too. Like, I think you're underselling. I don't think that Washington wants him there. I don't think he wants to be in Washington. I don't think Washington wants him anymore.
Right. Well, and so I have some knowledge about him and the people he surrounds himself beyond just surface level stuff, because he's from this area. He has connection. Just believe me when I say that I know some of these people, one person in particular who is very much involved in every decision that's made about this guy. And it's an ugly little circle of people. So he may not be somebody who the Ravens want to put in the building because of what he brings with him. I don't know if he has the right mentality for this team. So like from a pure physical and talent standpoint, I'm all about having him, because I think like when he's playing 100%, he's one of the best at his position. He's like one of those guys that, he reminds me, when he was coming out, he reminds me of Clowney, where he's like just this like freak of nature who's going to be, he's going to be good. So, but there are major red flags with him off the field, just the way the people he has around him who are guiding his decision making, who are guiding his mentality, everything. I would be cautious personally.
So that's interesting. I've heard that he's got a pain in the ass inner circle. I've never heard it spun that way, but that actually kind of makes sense. So
yeah, these are people who, even with like, so when he was in high school, we're doing this sort of shit.
Yeah.
Like, this goes back a long, long way, and they have never changed. They've only gotten worse. So, and it wouldn't surprise me. And part of the reason they want to get rid of him. Yeah, that's part of the reason I think they may want to get rid of him in Washington, is just the headache that his people that he surrounds himself bring to the locker room and the organization.
And it is interesting though, when he was at Ohio State, that was quiet. Like, it didn't affect his draft stock because.
All right, so I'll tell you why. Because the main person who drives this, the bus right now, and who's making decisions, he was at the time associated with the University of Maryland. So he wasn't as closely linked with him, but he is also the person. Yeah, I'm not going to get any deeper than that, because you could probably figure it out if you tried really hard after.
So basically, Randy Edsel has ruined Chase Young. That's what I'm
yeah, sure. We'll go with that.
Yeah. I mean, that guy's an asshole, so we can just throw him under the bus.
He is an asshole, and he's the person who allowed this guy into his building. So,
Yeah, it's all Randy Etzel's fault. That's fine. Mm-hmm. Again, I'm a Connecticut kid, so I remember the damage they did to Utah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Fuck Randy Edsel.
Part of the Randy Edsel tree. That's fair enough.
Yeah, it's all his fault. It's fine.
Yep.
And honestly, the Randy Edsall problem started with DJ Hernandez being good at football, and DJ Hernandez being good at football caused Aaron Hernandez. So really, Randy Edsall has just caused a whole lot of problems.
Big time. He technically Randy Edsall has killed people allegedly.
Yeah, multiple
Allegedly,
people.
yep. That's right.
Caused a lot of headaches for front offices. Like really, if you could probably trace a lot of issues in history back to Randy Edsall. So
Allegedly.
yeah,
Allegedly.
No, we don't hide behind allegedly on this podcast. We're all about the truth and
I'm more just applying allegedly to the words that I said because they were pretty definitive. But to be clear, Randy Edsall didn't kill anybody, but the chain of events led to people dying.
Wait, wasn't Randy Edsall the coach when that kid died at Maryland too? The heat stroke kid. I'm pretty sure that was.
I think so because then Matt Canada became the interim coach.
Yep.
And he didn't even make it a full season, I don't think.
No, he was the offensive coordinator for the Steelers. So yeah, Randy Edsall actually murdered a kid because of heat stroke. So by practicing him too hard in the heat in Maryland. So yeah, Randy Edsall is just not a good guy. This is not a route that I thought this podcast would take.
I didn't know we'd be. I didn't know we'd be here, but yeah.
Hey, we wound up balls deep in. Fuck Randy Edsall.
Not enough attention is being paid to the misdeeds of Randy Edsall. So.
That's right.
Jake, I feel like this is something you should have been all over. Like this seems like a Jake line of discussion here. And
yeah, I know nothing about Randy Edsall. The only thing I'll ask is, did you know of his whereabouts on January 6th? Can they be confirmed?
No, actually. So yeah,
well, I know. I mean, I know that he was not with the University of Maryland at that time. So I don't know what he's doing now because I know that.
Did he buy a home near the University of Maryland? Because then that would keep him a short drive from the event that Jake is insinuating.
Yeah, I don't know if he stuck around. I know that Mike Loxley had been the coach for a full season before, or 2 seasons, I think, until.
But Greg Roman still has a home in Owings Mills, as far as I know.
But he doesn't have another job. He doesn't have another job, so I don't know.
Well, yeah, but also I feel like he's probably not safe in the state of Maryland, so he's probably not. Really staying around as much as possible.
I think with Greg Roman, I think now that he's not like his fingerprints aren't on anything, that I don't care. If I were to run into Greg Roman, I would be very nice to him and talk.
If I were to run into Greg Roman, I would I just have one question for him, and it's why the fuck couldn't you get to play in downtown?
What were you doing?
Yeah, like what the fuck?
It was a bold strategy, and Todd will see where it takes.
And see, the problem is that I feel like Greg Roman is the kind of guy. So I used to run into Dave Dombrowski at Dunkin' Donuts in Cleveland Circle in Boston all the time when he was the GM of the Red Sox. And pretty much every time I would see him, I'd throw some little jab about, like, why the fuck didn't you sign this guy or why didn't you go get that guy? I feel like I'd run into Greg Roman at some fast food establishment and I'd be like, oh, see how long you're taking to order? This is why we couldn't get the fucking plays in on time, asshole. I can't stop myself. So
see, with Greg Roman, every time I've ever seen him outside of like a quick shot during a game of him looking confused or something in the booth. Yeah, every time I've seen him talk and be in front of a camera, he just seems like a really likable guy to me.
Yeah, but then I just remember the fucking terrorism that he caused.
No, I know, but no, believe me, I know. I'm just saying, like, if you met him, and it's outside the context of him ruining the Ravens season or then it's okay.
This is like saying Osama bin Laden's videos were very well shot and he's
I'm saying speaker. With Greg Roman we could separate the art from the artist and to be fair I have photoshopped Greg Roman in and made it look like he was at the Wuhan Institute of Virology in December of 2019.
I put him next to Bin Laden. I put him next to Putin. I put him next to Stalin. I think I put him at the January 6th riots. I've probably missed a place that I put him.
Do you think you did that? Yeah, I think you did that. I'm pretty sure you did.
No. I'm saying that I think I've probably done more than that. I know I did those. Those are 4 that I'm 100% owning. Those pictures floating around Twitter were 100% me.
Drew, you could have taken, again, just to go back to South Park, you could have taken one of those shots of Randy doing his deed with those creatures and just crock Greg Roman's face in there. And that's how COVID spread.
Yeah, COVID spread because Greg Roman didn't go get his vaccine fast enough because he was, late getting to CVS to get his vaccine. So
yeah, that was because
people don't want to talk about that, but that's what happened.
Well, at first it was because he was too busy fucking a bat, and then later he was too busy fucking a pangolin. So That's why you don't stick your dick in creatures. You create horrific epidemics.
All right, Jake. So my challenge to you here is to transition from that to JK Dobbins talk. So let's see your hosting skills. Fucking
Oh
Greg Roman
shit.
fucking a pangolin to talking about JK Dobbins.
Oh sure. Well, I mean the time was limited in how long COVID lasted, and apparently so is J.K. Dobbins' tenure in Baltimore. He says, "I want to be in Baltimore, but I don't know if I'm gonna be in Baltimore." So, Drew, how are we going to take away his Twitter? Because
That's
the Twitter fingers are doing too much damage to the youth.
that's not bad. That's not bad. That was a fairly solid transition on your end. I'm somewhat impressed.
Especially off
So
the top
he,
of my head, right there with no prep. Okay.
Hey Drew,
yeah,
hey Drew, I want some
yeah.
credit because I was the first, and you were even on the other side of this when JK Dobbins first started last year with the liking the tweets and all that. I was
Yeah.
very clear that JK Dobbins needs to get off social media because whatever he's trying to convey, he's too emotional to be on Twitter, especially.
So I go back and forth with JK Dobbins, and you and I touched on this last week. We recorded like 7 minutes after he sent the tweets. I think you read the tweets to me while I was pulling out of my driveway.
Yeah, I read the tweets to you like right before we started recording.
Yeah, so I don't think we really had like a fair chance to really dive into them. And I know he deleted one of them. I don't remember which one he's deleted by now.
I
But he
think it was the
basically
one
had
where
like,
he said like, I don't know though. I think it was that one. The one that
yeah,
was like,
so
I want to be here, but I don't know, or some shit like that.
so I think it
Something like emotional. Just fucking chill out.
So I think it was newly back to Twitter. Bobby Trossett allegedly, supposedly had a burner account floating around. So anybody wants to find that and expose that, that would be great. But him and Sarah said that they think it was contract extension related, which would kind of make sense that J.K. Dobbins has had a weird tenure in Baltimore between the we used a second round pick on him, which was pretty high, and he wasn't really brought in as a starting running back. He was kind of, behind Gus Edwards and Mark Ingram. And sort of as his rookie season went on, he got more and more carries and looked really good and continued to get more carries. And then he got hurt. And then last year was that weird, he wasn't fully healthy. He kind of rushed himself back. He had the whole spat with Ian Rappaport about how he was going to be ready, or Adam Schefter, I can't remember which one he fought, about how he was going to be
It was
ready.
rap sheet.
It was rap sheet to start the year that he was going to be ready to go week one, and he was not. You got that weird picture of his knee with the scope scars, kind of like, sticking out and still swollen. Missed some more time. Bitched about not getting the ball on the goal line when we decided to go with the 8-yard QB sneak by Tyler Huntley. So, there's some valid complaints mixed in with some Twitter finger fuckery of you never had more than 15 carries in a game, even at Ohio State, and you never cried until now. And like Will said, I think he just needs to stay away from social media because he's doing a horrible job portraying what are somewhat valid complaints.
All right, so think about this. I did and do have my criticism of the way Lamar Jackson handled his
Right.
brief I don't know, little brush with free agency, whatever you want to call that.
Why did you forgive him so much faster than you will forgive J.K. Dobbins? There's a very clear answer to that, and it's that Lamar has put up on the field.
Right.
And J.K. Dobbins has not done that to that level yet.
Yeah. And also here's the difference. Everything Lamar did was on purpose and it was planned. It was just really like whoever, whether it was himself or it was his team of people, whoever he's consulting with, it was just, to me, really poorly done. The messaging behind Lamar, it, I get that. Like, I totally understand what the idea was. I just think he did it really, really badly and risked alienating, or alienating is not even the right word. I don't even know what
he pissed off supporters of him with the way that he was acting.
Exactly,
and
right.
J.K. Dobbins is pissing off people like me who, early on in his Twitter fingers, I was kind of like, yeah, I like this. I like him talking shit about Greg Roman. I like him saying I want the ball, because you kind of always want I don't know, diva is the wrong word. I don't really know what the acceptable term is it is now.
Ego's not bad. Ego's not bad.
Yeah, ego is a good thing if the ego is producing. Again, Randy Moss was an egotistical fuck. You look at any superstar player, they all have an ego.
All of them. I mean, even players who aren't superstars have an
Keyshawn
ego.
Johnson.
They have an
Right,
ego
Keyshawn
because they're
Johnson.
working to try and like validate the ego. Any person who does a high profile job of any kind really has a huge ego that they're really trying to like live up to. It's like their
Right.
own idea of themselves that they're trying to like fill. So,
JK Dobbins is
and
trying to.
athletes are like the best example of it because they are doing something that like you see. It's not like a CEO or a scientist or something. Like I wouldn't fucking understand half the shit that they do, right? But a fucking running back, I can look at them on TV while they do their job and say they're good or they're bad. So, like a football player, any sort of an athlete, their egos are huge and they're just trying their best to somehow fill the ego that they have because it's their own idea of themselves and they want to like exceed it. That's their entire goal in life. Did Jake just fall? What the fuck just happened?
I don't know. I don't see Jake.
Did you
screen.
fall?
I was just adjusting my seat. I just put the camera down for a
You
second.
disappeared behind your virtual background. I thought you fell out of your seat.
That'd be hilarious. No,
That was some jaw dropping, stuff from you, and it just knocked Jake out of his chair. No,
I
but
mean, like, I honestly think that's what it is, though, with ego, and so
Yeah,
I get it. I get why he does it, but like,
you can't quantify when you look at why a Fortune 500 CEO gets a $500 million bonus or whatever the ridiculous number they get is because you're
Right.
not in that business, so you don't get it. But when JK Dobbins is getting paid millions of dollars to play, a game that you played as a kid, like that running for whatever the number is, 1,500 yards and 10 touchdowns is good, and missing half a season due to injury is bad. And
Yep.
like it's easily quantifiable, and he's almost trying to like flap his arms and be like, I deserve this money and this is why I'm good. And so I'm okay with that. When you're averaging 6 yards a carry and lighten shit up, talk your shit. You know what I mean? Like fucking flap your arms for attention. Tell people that you're great at football and you want to get paid. But when it comes to the off season and like you can't go out on the field and prove it every week, like shut your fucking mouth.
right.
Is really what it boils down to
Yeah.
for me.
Okay, so here's another big thing about this is he did this. I don't know if it was after week.
It was after the Bengals game when he was averaging.
So it was week 3. It's week 3.
Yeah, and so he was averaging, I don't know what it was, 6, 7 yards. It was a pretty high yards per carry, and he looked really good, but he didn't get a lot of carries that game.
Okay.
It ended up being a close, ugly game, and he was like, I need to run the ball more, and it's fine, but also like your leg's not healthy. So
exactly. So here's my point. He did that. He had his little Twitter fit, and at that time it was to me even worse because it was passive aggressive because he was liking fans tweets. But then a couple weeks later, he goes out, and it wasn't because he got hurt. It's because he found that wasn't ready, had to go get the knee scoped. He came back and he was so much better. So. And he even sort of acknowledged this, that, it's like his emotions got the better of him. He wanted to do more than he should have been doing. And he should have been listening more closely to the advice he was being given by the team. So then that's why I think from that point forward, he should have learned his lesson and just said, you know what, I'm going to be like, all you're going to get from me on social media is like sponsored content or positivity. Period.
Right.
Like for him to go on and complain after he basically like proved himself wrong was, to me, is really stupid. So like I don't know. It's just he seems like it's and it's worse. It's getting worse because now he's like that those tweets are so stupid to me. Just like what do you expect to fucking accomplish by saying?
Also, you play at an expendable position,
right?
Like that's part of the issue is that, Lamar Jackson can get away with and troll, asshole, annoying, whatever adjective you want to use to describe his, Twitter negotiation tactics. Like, I'm not going to argue with you on it, but he plays quarterback. Like he's not an expendable position.
No, right. Well, and one thing that JK, I don't know if it, I don't know if it factors into like his emotional response to everything. There's two guys. I forget the parameters of this stat, but 2 of the top like 3 or 4 guys in yards per carry with, I think, active players with over 500 carries or something like that. Don't quote me, but I think that actually might be it. Gus Edwards and JK Dobbins. So it's not like we don't have someone else, So
Gus is shutting his mouth and showing up training camp. And
he took a pay cut.
JK hasn't been there. So
right. And we have sort of proven over the past few years with all the the unpredictability at the position that we can sign someone off the street and plug them in, especially when there's a rotation and they do just fine. Like we could give a call to what's his name? From last year, Drake, Kenyon Drake. Last year, Kenyon Drake was actually pretty good last year. Let's be honest.
Yeah, he was slow to start, and then he picked up, and he was fine.
He could very easily, if we decided we're going to trade JK Dobbins for a second round pick, a third round pick, whatever it is, I don't know, or a player or whatever.
I mean, I think he'd be gone if you get that kind of return for him. I don't think anybody wants to give up that kind of.
No. But I'm just like, hypothetically speaking, like whatever it is, whatever the return is, that they deem is acceptable coming back, and they're not, and I'm saying they're not trading directly for another running back. They're just trading, and like he's gone. Gus Edwards becomes running back 1, and nobody bats an eyelash, and then you sign Kenyon Drake to be RB2, and you're still in really good shape.
And you still have Keaton Mitchell and Justice Hill. Like I don't think our running back room is. We don't need JK Dobbins. JK Dobbins makes the running back room better, but like he's not.
I want JK Dobbins, but we don't need it.
I want JK Dobbins who's focused on winning games and not focused on his rushing yard totals
or his carries or whatever. Or just like, dude, every how about this? Make the most of every fucking opportunity you get, and which he has been. Not saying he hasn't been, but
Marshawn Lynch did not ever say a word about Russell Wilson throwing that pick to Malcolm Butler. Never said he should have handed me the ball in that situation. That conversation never happened because Marshawn Lynch, for as outspoken and wild of a human being as he was, understood that like he plays a replaceable position, and that's not how you get more jobs in the NFL, and that's not how you win over your teammates by fucking slamming them and slamming.
He still gets asked about that to this day, and he doesn't say much about
it. Never says shit. Shuts his fucking mouth. And there is an element of that I like to players of I like talking shit. I like guys who are confident in their abilities, but I also like guys who kind of shut their mouth and know when pick their spots better. JK Dobbins is bad at picking his spot.
And like, dude, if you keep doing it this many times, like, I mean,
it's Boyle Treadwell.
Right, exactly. Like, okay, I think it was a pretty split, if not maybe more in favor of him when he was liking the tweets. Anyway, on Twitter, I'm gauging this off Twitter like my circle on Twitter. So like it's a super hyper focused group of people, but
niche group,
it's not representative necessarily of like all Ravens fans, but initially people were not necessarily like JK Dobbins shouldn't be doing this, but dude, he's done it at least 3 times, and every time he does it, it's like he's doubling down on something he's already been proven wrong for in the first place.
Well, and he's losing support now because I feel like a lot of the people who were, rah-rah JK Dobbins people when he was liking those tweets and talking his shit or, had his side because it was anti-Greg Roman. Or you could spin it into an anti-Greg Roman thing. Now Greg Roman's not here anymore, and Todd Monken has never coached an NFL game for us, so you have no negative feelings about him.
Well, and the team, the offense in particular, has been upgraded so much that it's like, dude, really? Like right now, like you're gonna start this bullshit right now when like there's really nothing for anybody. Orioles. I'm looking at the Orioles game. They just fucking got walked off, by the way.
Red Sox won, so.
Well, they're so far behind. I don't even think of them at night.
Yeah, you should. You should fear them.
Where was I?
Hey, at least you're not the A's.
Yeah. I mean,
Shout out Athletics Rants.
That's right.
Hard to be that bad. Fucking 12-51. My lord.
It's very hard.
Negative 213 run differential.
That's the bigger. That's the more significant number than the record. The fucking run differential is insane.
That's almost the record, and we're in fucking June. Like that's bad.
They had like a negative 113, and it was barely out of April. I remember it was something crazy. I fell out of my chair.
Yeah, I mean
then I saw the Rays on the other end of it were like plus 120 at one point or some shit like that.
Yeah, it's unreal looking at how bad the Oakland Athletics are. Like for a sports franchise, that's just fucking embarrassing.
Jake really just derailed everything. He's supposed to be the guy that keeps it on track. and I got interrupted by myself. But then now I can't remember what I was saying, and now Jake's got us talking about fucking the Oakland
Well, I
A's.
mean, what we were saying.
And
is
I'm not
that
even a fan.
But at least we're not
think-
talking about baby getting raped, right?
Well, no. Why would we ever go full lost profits? That's a terrible idea.
Can we get the
Never go
lead
for
singer of the
Lost
Lost
Profits.
Profits on the podcast, or is he in prison?
I don't
I
want
think he's
to. I
out
don't
of
want to
prison.
interact with someone.
But no, absolutely not.
I need 3 seconds to bring him on and Jake just saying, "Hey, you did this. What are your thoughts?" and him leaving. That's all I need.
I would.
All right, hey, we're gonna.
That's fair.
Yeah, we're gonna do word association. Ready, set, go. Infants.
Baby killer.
Lack of sleep.
Disconnect. Yeah.
Brother
Oh,
Lynch, baby.
I just
Fucking Brother Lynch.
There are things that we need to happen on this podcast. That's one of them. I just need Jake to have some obscure guest on to bully them into leaving.
Last train
Right.
home. Still
Him
banging,
for sure. Yeah, but I'll never listen to this song ever again.
Such a good song.
Yep. Too
You
bad.
gotta
That'll
you gotta separate the art from the artist. We were talking about that earlier.
Yep.
Yeah, but I can't do it when you're fucking infants or babies. Like, nah. That's just when you're like,
I mean,
I'm just
Will's
throw you in a
out here.
pit. And
I haven't
light you up
listened to
with
the song.
kerosene.
I have not listened to.
Yeah.
It's just it's a nostalgia.
Oh no, they
It's a
have
good song.
good songs. They have good songs.
I've
That's
never
the fucked up
listened to
thing
the
about
song. I've never listened to the song. I have no idea who these people are, and I have no interest in knowing who they are now. So credit to me, but
like,
you know,
again,
God forbid, Future has like 12 baby mamas that he wishes a happy Mother's Day to religiously, and
That-
somehow
see-
he's a track
see,
artist and horrible
That's the
person.
thing you get. That's the thing you give Future at least. He didn't fuck babies.
No,
So, you know what?
just a lot of women, a lot of women, a lot of different kids, but
The American dream, the rapper lifestyle or the rock star lifestyle. Sticking your dick in whatever opening comes about. That's what it is. But anywho, that's gonna do it for this week's installment. We'll be back next week to discuss this, that, and the other. Maybe VD will come on and talk Wonder Shows and who the fuck knows. But meanwhile, it's me to die. Oh!
this is where Max has to pipe and see ya.
See ya!
Zone 32.